Alrighty, welcome back everyone. Scarland here, bringing you a new Neverwinter video. And today, as the title suggests, we're going to be talking about gloves. Specifically the glove slot, specifically for DPS characters. So there were things brought to my attention, obviously, during a stream the other day. And the full disclaimer and the reason I'm making this video is because there is an influx of newer players in the game, and they simply just don't remember all of this old gear. Now, we're specifically talking about the gloves or the arms, because everything else theoretically has its place in the game currently. And there are other substitutions as well across the board, but I specifically want to talk about the gloves today because, again, someone had mentioned to me in my stream the other day about these old gloves that even I simply forgot that they even existed. So I want players to be aware of their options and how to obtain the gear that they need. Now, of course, I just recently put out the Warlock DPS build and guide video for Mod 20. I did discuss gloves in that video a little bit, but now we have a new set of gloves that is, on the table because, again, I simply forgot they even existed. So, of course, anyone that is familiar with my channel, I try to provide as much information to the community as I possibly can, and that's knowledge, Even me, a player that has played day one since Xbox, 6 years of playing a Warlock, even I tend to forget that some items existed. So that's the whole topic of this video today. We're going to jump into it. We're going to explain it. It's going to be a pretty short video for the most part, but I just wanted to get the information out there, especially for DPS characters, because this doesn't necessarily just involve the Warlock. This is pretty much, every DPS character for the most part. So let's get into it. So, of course, we do have the gloves that came from Mod 17. Now, there are a few versions of gloves that come in Mod 17. However, you're looking for the one with the encounter power damage. And this is so important because as a Warlock, or other casters, for instance, we're currently stacking 2 of the ranged powers on our rings. Now, your build could be different than mine, and you may not be stacking 2 of the sniper's perks. However, if you're following the build and the guide that I recently just put out for the Warlock, then yes, you're using 2 sniper's perks on your rings. Again, that's ranged powers do 3% damage. Now, there are other rings in the game that do have encounter power damage plus 3% as well. But again, as I mentioned, that doesn't fit in this specific build. So we need that encounter power damage somewhere else. I choose to put it on the arms. That's the topic of this video. That's why we're discussing this. So again, the Tempter of Twilight gloves is theoretically the best version that you can get. Now, at the same time, it's also the hardest version to get, in my opinion, because the only place that you can get these is Master Expeditions, Warden Expeditions, and Fragmented Expeditions, going all the way back to Mod 16 and Mod 17. So, if you want to put the time and dedication in of doing your MEs every day, and, for that RNG chance of getting these, that's completely up into every individual player, obviously. So, that, to me, this is theoretically best in slot for the gloves. And now, as we move on to the second item, the Star Rover Gear Pack, and this is the item that I forgot even existed. Now, this is technically PvP gear, however, you can sell this. So if you don't want to farm until your eyes bleed, you do have another option. I'm not saying that you have to buy these, but for those min-max players out there that want to be the best that, they can possibly be, if you can't get these gloves to drop, or you're still farming them nonstop until they drop, you now have an option with the Star Rover gear. Now, again, this is the piece of gear that even I forgot existed. This gear pack was put on the Zen market. It released with Mod 17 when they introduced Starduck, and it is PvP gear, but once I show you, you'll start to understand. So yeah, this came with enchanted keys. You had to buy enchanted keys, and this pack came with it. Sort of like the bundle that we currently have with the Avernus Hunt Key bundle, for example. So you get 20 enchanted keys, and then you get another item. That's pretty much where this box came from. Now again, you can check your auction house prices on the platform you play, and these are going to be expensive, and that's why they're expensive. So if you're a newer player, chances are you didn't even know these existed, right? This is going back several mods in content. Again, these came out in mod 17 when they introduced a new PvP map. So let's go ahead, we'll look at this, and what we're looking for is the gloves. It's the Star Rover's gloves. Now the item level does go down. It's 940 compared to the 1000. However, it does have a different ability that's not encounter power damage. So if you read it here, it's Serpentine. It's when you are moving for 3 seconds, your damage is increased by 1% and it stacks 5 times. And once you stand still for 5 seconds, you're going to lose all those stacks. Now this is actually really good for AoE situations. When you're in dungeons, especially the new mod 20 dungeon, Vault of the Stars, you are going to be moving non-stop on AoE. Especially in the current meta and iteration of the game where you can't stand there and take damage. You can't stand in the red. You have to move. Now trash mobs have combat advantage. You are constantly moving. So on a DPS character, you're going to have all 5 stacks of this. So this is 5% damage, which theoretically, obviously, is better than 3% damage. But at the same time, you guys have to realize that when you're reading a Neverwinter tooltip, it doesn't necessarily mean what it says, right? Your encounter powers do 3% more damage, is what the tooltip says. But in actuality, you're not getting 3% damage. You're probably getting a fraction of a percent of your overall DPS increase. But again, for those people that care, if you're a min-max character and this is what you strive to do, then that's why it's important. If you're just a everyday, casual player, chances are you're not going to care about any of this. You're just going to get what's accessible to you, and that's what you're going to go with. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is for those sweaty DPS characters that really care about their statistics and how much DPS they can actually push out. So when we're looking at these Star Rover's gloves, that's why this is so important, especially in an AoE situation on a DPS character. You're getting 5% damage, and you just have to make sure you're not standing still for 5 seconds. So, like I said, in the new dungeon, you're going to be constantly moving, and you're going to have those 5% stacks pretty much at 100% uptime, because you're never going to stand still for 5 seconds. Even when you momentarily pause and you pop a couple of your encounter powers, it's not even going to be 5 seconds before you're moving again. Now, at the same time, these aren't very good for single target, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing single target in dungeons, yeah, you're probably going to move around a little. If you're doing Tower of the Mad Mage, you're doing Zariel, you're not going to be moving around that much. You're still going to be moving, but you're going to have to pay attention to maintain those stacks. So, it might not be the best item for single target. However, for AoE situations, yes, absolutely. These gloves are really good. And they can compete with, like I said, the 3% encounter power damage. Now, these, again, they are unobtainable. You can't get these anymore. These are no longer in the game, so you have to buy them from another player. Now, as it sits right now, again, you can check your platform, check the prices, but now that, I've released this video, unfortunately, prices are probably going to fluctuate a little. There are people that are sitting on hundreds of these packs, so just be prepared that if you want the easy way out, right? If you have the extra Astral Diamonds to spend, this is the easy way out. If you don't want to put the time and the dedication to get pretty much, the best in my opinion, then you have an easy way out, right? So you can just simply buy these from another player. Now, moving on to the Spike Defenders. Again, in the Warlock video, I suggested these. However, I don't personally like them. But however, these are also easy to get. I don't like how you have to proc them the effect, it goes from damage resistance and then it gets turned into damage. I just don't like the way they interact, personally. However, they're easy to obtain. These come out of Juma bags. You can very easily farm Juma bags and go from there. As we move along the list here, the Terror Grips, again, now we're progressing backwards, right? The item level is 756 compared to 1,000. However, we're looking for that encounter power damage, which these have. The Terror Grips, of course, go all the way back to mod 14, and I don't want to say these are easy to get, but it's just RNG based. These come from the tier 2 hunt, the Gavscar poster. Again, you can buy these posters on the auction house. However, it's still RNG chances, right? So it could take you 10 posters, it could take you 50 posters, it could take you 1 poster before the Terror Grips will actually drop. Now, mod 14, these posters, they're very easy. To get a tier 2 poster, you have to do a bunch of tier 1s, and then the tier 1s will produce a tier 2. However, there are several tier 2 that you can get, but the one you're looking for is obviously Gavscar. Again, you will notice that these posters are selling for a lot of money, and this is why. So, again, you can buy these, but just be prepared that it's an RNG chance. If you're looking for the Terror Grips, then so be it. And that's all there is to it. What you're looking for is that encounter power damage. Now, again, you can go back even further. Now we're looking at item level 672 compared to the 756 or the 1225 or the 1000 or the 940, right? These are pretty much last on the list. However, these are probably the easiest, in my opinion, to obtain for like a casual player, for instance. These, of course, go all the way back to mod 13. So now we're talking about the jungles of Shult and Omu, and these simply drop from the tier 3 hunt. Now the difference is that now that this content is so old, these have a 100% drop rate. So all you have to do is farm the hunts, and you will eventually get enough to make a tier 3 lure. Once you get the tier 3 lure, these then obviously have a 100% drop rate. Now, you can still find people trying to sell rotten flesh currently. I don't know what the prices are looking like on your platform specifically, but you can't just buy the rotten flesh to go for the jaw rippers. That's completely up into every individual player. Again, this sole purpose of me even making this video is just the information, because again, like I said, I didn't even remember that the Star Rover gear even existed in the game. So there is another option available to players. Like I said, this is kind of the easy way out. You can literally just buy these from another player. Of course, you are going to pay for them. They're going to be costly. You can get the Spike Defenders for free, essentially. You just got to farm Juma bags until you get one. I personally don't like these gloves, but hey, whatever works for you. And then, like I said, you can go all the way back to mod 14, get Terror Grips via the Gavscar posters. You can buy the Gavscar posters. Or then finally, the Jaw Rippers gloves, going all the way back to mod 13. And again, these do drop from the tier 3 at 100% ratio. So, yes, this is why the purpose of this video, again, is just to get the information out there, because there is a very huge influx of newer players, and even veteran players like myself that forgot that, Star Rover even existed, and it's a very valid option for an AoE situation on DPS. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. As far as the arm slot goes, you do have a plethora of options. Make sure, you share it with your friends, share it with your guildies. If people are still struggling to hit their statistical caps or optimize for full damage builds on DPS, show them the way. Say, hey, you can get some Star Rovers, you can get Terror Grips, it's up to every individual player to make their own decisions based upon of how you play the game, your play style, and if you want to min-max your character, etc. So if you have any questions regarding the arm slot and where we are currently sitting today as of filming this video, it is February 10th of 2021. This information will remain relevant, and as long as these items remain relevant as the game progresses. As always, it is an MMORPG. Things change, new items come out, new best in slot stuff gets released. But as it sits right now, that's your options on DPS for the glove slot. again, hopefully you enjoyed the video. You learned something new. Feel free to pay me lots of money for the things that I have on the auction house now. Thank you very much. No, all seriousness aside, or all jokes aside, rather, and being serious. Hopefully you guys did learn something from this. Like I said, even if you're a veteran player, even myself, I forgot these existed. So there you go, guys. That's all I got for you today. Nice little short video. I'll see you guys real soon.